is Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio and host of the syndicated talk show, People of Distinction. The talk that gives you an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, alcoleenterprises.com for more info. Email me through benji@alcoleenterprises.com if you'd like to get involved with what we have going. And as always, please continue to like and follow our broadcasts. People of Distinction is internationally syndicated solely due to the love and support that you all continue to give. We're available across all major distributors, and as long as you keep following, we're going to continue to put out the content. Now sit back and strap in, because on the line with us today, we have the impressive Colonel Tracey Meck. Now we're going to be discussing her incredible book, See You Along the Way, Reflections of a Veteran Hiking the Camino de Santiago. That's Amazon, it's Barnes & Noble, man, it's a lot of other places. I'm telling you, type it into a search bar and you're going to be greeted with all of them. This is a book you're going to want to add to your shelf, and you're going to understand why in just a few moments. Before I go any further, I want to quickly point out the fact that Tracey was brought to us by one of the best publishing firms in the business, Citi of Books. So for my writers out there, if you've gone through your process, and now you need some assistance moving that book you just developed, man, I hear you. I get it. Head on over to citiofbooks.com. It's a one-stop shop. Gather all of the ways that their fantastic team is going to help you do just that. Listen, it is an absolute pleasure to have Colonel Meck here on the line with us. Her book is going to be one that you're not going to be able to put down, man. Trust me when I tell you, and it has so much to offer. Whether you are a part of the military community, you know someone that is, or you're just a civilian like myself and you want to take a quick snapshot into what it's like, this book is going to take you from the battlefields of Afghanistan to the ancient trails of the Camino de Santiago. After a lifetime of military service, she traded in her uniform for a pilgrim's pack, I guess. Let's say that, all right? Only to face a different kind of battle, the fight to rediscover herself. Now, anybody that's listening in, man, if you have a military background, you understand that fight all too well. Readjusting to civilian life is something, man, it's something that is difficult to do. And I feel like even if you're not part of the military, you can relate, right? Sometimes when you are so engulfed in your career path, it becomes your identity. What happens in retirement? What happens when that is no longer your title? It poses some pretty large questions. It poses some pretty deep internal battles. And that is exactly where we pick up today, because her book is going to showcase that and so much more. I promise you, man, this is an extraordinary story of resilience. It has echoes of war on the pilgrimage trail, and it really is going to focus in on what it truly means to find your way home. Sit back and strap in, man. Here we go. Tracey, first and foremost, welcome to People of Distinction, and thank you very much for being a guest. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, and boy, was that a great introduction. I think we're done here.
There it is. It's a wrap, people. Okay, head on over and pick up your copies. No, Tracey, I was following your lead, okay? You laid a phenomenal foundation and a wonderful roadmap for me to follow. So thank you for your kind words, but all the praise goes right back to you. I think what you've done here is remarkably compelling and has a lot to offer. So we're looking forward to this discussion. Let's start off by learning more about your background. I know that the book covers a bit of it, but let's go a little bit deeper. Who is Colonel Tracey Meck?
I was born in Montana. My dad worked for IBM, which in their logo, everybody's got to have acronyms. It means I've been moved. So every couple of years we moved around. But when I was in the 5th grade, we landed in Alaska. And then he quit IBM and got his own computer consultant business going. So I was able to stay there and graduate in 83. And a month later found myself at basic cadet training at USAFA, the United States Air Force Academy, in the 8th class with women, and graduated there in 1987, and then headed off to the Security Police Academy. Later they changed our name to Security Forces. We keep changing our name to keep the bad guys on edge. They don't know who we are. But anyway, later it was Security Forces. That was my primary career field. Spent almost 30 years doing that. Was stationed at 8 stateside bases and 5 bases overseas. In the 90s, I deployed twice as a Joint Task Force Provost Marshal that's in charge of security and force protection. Humanitarian operations, one shining humanitarian side of the Kosovo campaign. I think that was 98 or 99. Anyway, and then the next one the following year in 2000 was Atlas Response, which was a flood relief operation down in southern Africa. And then after 9/11, everything changed to the war on terror. So I did have 2 deployments to Afghanistan, one to Iraq, and another combat tour in a zone that people don't usually consider combat was in Djibouti. And then right after that last deployment in Djibouti, I retired out. I was stationed at the Pentagon at the time, and I retired out of the Pentagon in 2012. And now I'm a professional volunteer. I do a whole lot of stuff with my church and other causes in my community, and some people say I'm busier now than I was in the military, which is hard to believe, and I don't believe it, but people say it.
There you have it. Tracey, thank you very much, man. What an impressive background. Listen, thank you again for your incredible service and really helping protect the freedoms of all of us, right, here in the United States. And as someone that has never served in the military myself, but I do have a lot of active military members, either in my family or in my inner circle, the dedication and the sacrifice that you all make for us on our behalf is something that is never overlooked here through our network, and we truly appreciate that. So thank you once again for it. Let's jump right in now to your anchor, to this incredible book, See You Along the Way. Tell us a little bit more about it.
Okay, it's structured around my 500-mile hike on the Camino de Santiago, with each chapter being a day on the trail, plus the first 3 chapters were getting to the trailhead. The Camino de Santiago is the one I went on. There's many Caminos around Europe, and they all end up at the cathedral in Santiago de Compostela. But the one I was on is the most popular, the 500-mile. It starts at Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port in southern France, goes over the Pyrenees, and across the northern part of Spain through places like León and Astorga and some of the bigger cities, Pamplona, for instance, the one, the bowls. We go through there. It's an ancient pilgrimage, started well over 1,000 years ago. Before there were cars, trains, and planes, and you couldn't go to Jerusalem for a pilgrimage, the people in Europe would walk to Santiago because the Apostle James is entombed under the altar there, and you can actually go down and look at, coffin. They called it something else, but it's basically his coffin underneath the altar. So that's what they're going there for. A lot of people do it as a religious pilgrimage. Others do it because it's a challenge. 500-mile hike is a challenge. And a lot of people do it like I did. I was trying to process my transition into the civilian world. And others are transitioning, as you mentioned in your introduction, from their career to retirement. Some trying to process losing a spouse after decades of marriage. So any big life change, this is a great way to reflect, think, and process and figure out, where do I go from here? You meet people from all over the world, and you have dinner with them, you hike with them, you form what we call the Camino family, because you see the same people over and over again, the ones who stay in places like you stay, eat where you eat, go about the same distance each day. So you become a family, so it's really great. And then since I'm hiking 10 to 15 miles a day, I have plenty of time to reflect on my military career. So a big part of the book is sometimes I'm talking to people about my career, and in that case, I'll relate that discussion. Otherwise, I chronologically go from the academy through retirement and hit on the major parts of the career along the way. And then the third thread that weaves through it is my Christian journey, the ups and downs and struggles. I'm a pretty analytical person, so I'm constantly dealing with doubts, and then 9/11 threw me for a loop because those people that flew that plane into those towers and the Pentagon, they thought they were doing God's will. And so how do I know that what I was raised to believe is any more true than what they were raised to believe. I believe that they believe a lie. So how do I know that I'm not being misled in the way I was raised? So I've had lots and lots of doubts, and even working with Muslims a lot in Iraq and Afghanistan, that gave me some more lights, and it all caused all sorts of struggles. I used the journey to work through some of those. I book along the way. I did a Bible study. I talked about those types, and of course, now who am I going to be for the rest of my life, and how does that get shaped by my faith? So the writing of the book did help me come to terms with a lot of the stuff in my life. I mentioned my career had defined me, and now I didn't know who I was. I kept telling people, I don't want to be a waster. I have to have a purpose. I have to contribute to the world around me. That's what I've done my whole life. Now what?
Colonel Meck,
so I go through all of that.
Absolutely. Colonel Meck, I'm gonna quickly jump in here because, listen, I love what you're talking about right now. And there is so much, I think, to be gained here. And listen, we can spend an entire interview just talking about this, but I'd feel remiss if I didn't jump in and point this out. People, first and foremost, let me just quickly plug the book again, all right? Remember, it's entitled See You Along the Way, Reflections of a Veteran Hiking the Camino de Santiago. It's Amazon, it's Barnes & Noble, it's a lot of other places. Remember the name, Colonel Tracey Meck. This is one absolutely is going to be a game changer for you. Add it to your shelf. Get it as a gift to add to someone else's. I promise you, this is one you need, man. Tracey, you said something that I thought was remarkably compelling. And I think that it's beneficial for everyone to make sure that it's heard. And we're going to go into specifics with regards to your experience. But again, it's one of those moments where it's a copy and paste thing, right? You're talking about walking this massive trail. And like you said, 10 to 15 miles a day, that's going to give you a lot of time for reflection. It's going to give you a lot of time to talk to others that are also on this hike. And of course, listen, the Camino de Santiago, it's historic, right? It is known for that transformation because of this long hike that you are taking and the amount of time that it gives you. I'm curious to know, sticking with this perception of transformation, of reflection, how did walking this trail, did it offer you moments where you were able to look back on past missions from your military experience, and did it cause you to look at things differently?
As a Provincial Reconstruction Team commander, my job was to work with the provincial government, the governor and his ministers. And we would go out to villages and sit down with the elders and have what they called shura meetings to discuss with them how things were going with them, what their needs were, and we'd end up doing projects for them. I became friends with both of the governors. I had 2 provinces I was responsible for. And what I found was that the normal Muslim was just like us. They had families, they wanted peace, they wanted safety, and they were not supporting the Taliban and the terrorists because they agreed with them. They were supporting them because if they didn't, then the Taliban would come and kill their families and themselves, and you oppose them in any way, and you're in trouble. And we could go into a village, and our kinetic guys with the war fighters, I was on the humanitarian side, they were on the war fight, they could go in and they could secure a village, but they couldn't stay there forever. We didn't have that many people to occupy every village and keep the peace. So eventually we and the Afghan army, we were almost always together, would end up leaving the village, and immediately the Taliban would come in, and anybody who had been supportive of either the Afghan government people or the U.S. military people, they would be taken out. And people knew that. We were not able to be there all the time. So they were not able to be as supportive for us as they wanted to be because they were afraid of the terrorists. Just like we didn't like the terrorists, neither did they. They just wanted to have families. They wanted a brighter future. They wanted to advance their society. We would go out and we'd put in solar power and lights and fuel-run generators to give them electricity, and they were always so happy about it. They constantly were thanking us for the things that we were doing for them. And to tell you the truth, my interactions with the male Muslims, you would think as a female military leader, I might have had problems with that. To tell you the truth, I had more problems with the Army leadership, with me being a female, than I did with the Muslims, the governors and everybody out there. They knew that I was the PRT commander. I had the money. If they wanted something done, I could get it done for them. And they respected me. It was like I was a third sex, if you will. They knew I was female. They knew I wasn't a man. But they didn't treat me like they treat their females. Any international person that's there to help, it's like you're a third sex. You're not a man, but you're not one of our females either. And they treated me with respect. And part of my problems and the stress out of Afghanistan came from butting heads and men over there who didn't think I should be in that position as a female. They thought that should have been a man's job.
Okay. Well,
but I was actually, so that's where I struggled with the Army leadership than with the Afghans that I was working with.
Okay, let's transition now to this, because, listen, this is another topic point that I think we would be remiss in not addressing. The military, of course, is a male-dominated institution. Again, I'm not a military personnel, but I would assume that's probably a safe assumption. Talk to us about some of the pressures, or I don't know, maybe pressure is the wrong word, but did you feel pressure to prove yourself more than your male counterparts? And how did that affect your leadership style? Talk to us a little bit more about your experience being a woman in this male-dominated institution.
Yeah, you're right. It was my graduating class from the academy. We had 12% were women. Of course, this was early, like I had said earlier, the 8th class with women. Even during the academy, there were guys there who made it quite clear. They would tell me and my roommate right to our faces, my being here is less impressive because you are here. And I did run into that a lot in the early part of my career. Women moving out into more than just the nursing career field in the military was pretty new at the time, and there were a lot of people that did not like it. Now, granted, I was in a support position. Security forces is support, not tip of the spear. And even to this day, I can't imagine having a female with our body types and muscle structure and the way we're designed to be the tip of the spear as a Navy SEAL or a Green Beret kicking down doors. We're not built for that. But there's so many other things. That's 5% of the military. The other 95% is what we call enablers or support people. And most of that anybody can do. You don't have to be a Navy SEAL type person to, work in finance or supply or security. But throughout my career, like the first Gulf War, I volunteered to take a team down to the Middle East, and I was flat out told, no, you can't go because you're a woman. My base was the only base that didn't send women because we were going to Qatar and Kuwait. We weren't going to the fight. We were going to be at the support bases where the fighters launched from, but we were more support. Saudi Arabia, that type of place. Qatar. That wasn't where the fighting was. But my boss said, you can't go. And so it wasn't until, oh my goodness, it was 2004 before I finally got to do what I'd been training to do my whole career, and that was when I went to Afghanistan for the first time. And even that, it was in a support mode. I was the deputy commander for the mission support group that was running the airfield at Bagram. And my boss there, by the way, was a female. Again, it's a support role. We're not the tip of the spear. We're not kicking down doors, but we're making all that stuff happen. We're enabling all that stuff to happen. But then in the Air Force, it got way much better. Over time, we were accepted But then when I got to Afghanistan the second time, I was actually in a joint billet, so working for the Army. And I was a totally different mindset because they were Army infantry. And at that time, women were not even in the infantry. They were again in support roles in the background, but they weren't in the infantry. And like my security platoon was Army, no females, and they did not appreciate being led by a female. Yeah. And they made that quite clear. And my bosses, I could see, were treating me different than others. But it had been a long time in the Air Force since I had this problem. Maybe when I was a captain was the last time, and now I'm a lieutenant colonel. And it was actually my right-hand man, my senior NCO, said, I think what's going on here is you're female. I said, no, that was 10 years ago. We're way behind. We're way ahead of this now. He said, no, I think that's what's going on. And at first I didn't believe it, but thinking about it, I said, yeah, he's probably right. But like I said, I was having a lot easier time with the Afghans at that time.
Yeah. Listen, Tracey, I thank you very much for all of this. And like I said, man, this is so compelling. And the book offers a lot more. People, we are just scratching the surface. But trust me when I tell you, man, this is much larger than just her story. That it is. But understand the wisdom that you're going to be able to pull from this, from so many areas. Read in between the lines, because I promise you, man, this is something you're going to be able to take to the bank. As we close out of here, Tracey, we've discussed a lot. Part of me really wants to ask advice that you could offer to young women looking to enter the military world and what to expect and the things that they could overcome. But let's offer this in a more, or you can answer that, but just any advice to people out there listening in, right? Whether they're military personnel or not. I think your book is very compelling because, again, it gives a snapshot into the military life, but it also discusses the challenges of reacclimating into civilian life. And I think that is so key. So really, dealer's choice here, advice specifically for young women entering or advice for just active military personnel on what to expect for life after they take the uniform off.
Okay, so for women, real quick, guess it's going to feel like you're starting 6 feet under and you have to dig your way out. Just prove to the people around you that you're not a liability, that you can pull your own weight, and things will be fine. Don't ask for favors. Prove to them that you're up to par and you can do the job, and you'll be fine. As far as getting out of the military, the world is totally different. It's a dog-eat-dog world, and especially in civilian corporations and stuff, from what I'm told. But the key is find a purpose. Don't be a waste of air. Find something that you can sink your teeth into, a mission, a new life mission, and then just go for it. And don't be afraid to struggle with determination to overcome any obstacle that is put before you.
People, I absolutely love it. I'm going to say it for you again. It's Amazon. It's Barnes & Noble. The book is called See You Along the Way by Colonel Tracey Meck. Head on over there. Pick up your copies today because this book, man, it's for military veterans, but it's for so much more. It proves that some battles don't end when the uniform comes off. Man, they simply change terrain. Her book is going to provide courage. Courage to keep moving forward when the road ahead isn't always clear. Head on over there, pick up your copies today, and just witness what this book can do for you. Tracey, this has been a true pleasure, an absolute honor. Thank you once again for being a guest, people of distinction.
Thank you very much, and you have a wonderful day.